Hello, friends, and welcome to Weekly Witness, Texas Impact's weekly podcast designed to help mainstream Texans of faith understand the legislative process and to help you engage with the Texas legislature. My name is Scott Atnip, your host and Texas Impact's Director of Public Witness, and I am excited to kick off our new year with Reverend Angela Williams. Reverend Williams is the Associate Minister of Missional Engagement at First United Methodist Church of Dallas and Executive Pastor of St. Paul United Methodist Church, where she helps lead their Justice Builders program. Justice Builders brings together members from both St. Paul and First United Methodist to work together in ministry to positively affect racial justice. Reverend Williams and the Justice Builders are co-hosting the North Texas Faith Votes event with Texas Impact February 3rd, so we hope to see you there. This is one of many events Texas Impact will be hosting in the next few months. We're coming into the new year hot because this is an important year for democracy and issues of justice. So I hope everyone had a chance to find rest and find joy and meaning in the holiday season. But now it's time to get to work because we are about 8 weeks out from the all-important primary elections, 4 months out from the primary runoffs, and 10 months out from a critical general election, with a whole lot of civic engagement work to do throughout the year. Texas Impact is excited to partner with you, and we're looking forward to some great Weekly Witness content throughout the year. For now, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast feed, that you share it with a friend. Make sure you're subscribed to the Texas Impact e-news and all of our social media channels to make sure you are up to date on all that's going on this year, because it's a lot. For now, welcome back to a new year of Weekly Witness, and I hope you enjoyed this week's conversation with Reverend Angela Williams. Joining us for today's conversation is Reverend Angela Williams. Reverend Williams is the Associate Minister of Missional Engagement at First United Methodist Church of Dallas and the Executive Pastor of St. Paul United Methodist Church. In her role, she has led the successful Justice Builders program, which we will talk about today. Reverend Williams, Happy New Year, and thank you so much for joining us.
Happy New Year. Good to see you. Yes, sir.
I am excited. You are the first guest of the new year. Hopefully we haven't forgotten how to do this thing. So, welcome back to our listeners. First of all, we mentioned it in that brief introduction. You have helped lead the Justice Builders program. Talk to us about that program and what you've been able to accomplish.
Awesome. Yeah. So Justice Builders, the history of it actually goes back to when the two churches, First United Methodist Church downtown Dallas and St. Paul United Methodist Church downtown Dallas, were brought together, about 10 people from each congregation. And we worked with a group called Project Curate from out of Houston, whose intention was to bring us together, a predominantly African-American church and a predominantly Anglo-American church, to see what we could do together in downtown Dallas. And so that started in 2021. And we worked together online. As you remember, we had this little thing called COVID going on.
Oh, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. So we worked online, and where we could get together, we, would get together in mass, but mostly it was done online. And about a year later, we ended the relationship with Project Curate, but the group wanted to continue. And so we started together at the beginning of this year, January, trying to come together to determine, which direction we would go after peeling layers away during the year before and coming back together as a group together. We had to decide, what did we want to do in the form of justice and work together as two faith communities in downtown Dallas. And so in January, we decided that we would kind of just put our heads together, figure out, what kind of biblical means we would use to support us. And after about 3 months of kind of just digging deep, we decided that we wanted to have a scripture, which is Micah 6. He has shown you, O mortal, what is good, right? And what is just. And we're supposed to love and do mercy and walk humbly with God, right? And so we were like, yeah, that's us, right? And then it took us a while to figure out our mission. But after a while, we decided that what we wanted to do was make sure that we are a group together in this community, mirroring God's love, right? And God's justice to the world. And so what we do is we strive to connect the people in our community and civic groups, congregations, to work to build a loving community that advocates for public life and humane practices and policies that are moral, right, equitable, and support the common good for everybody. And so, with that as our foundation, we were kind of like, okay, so now what do we do? Right? Because there's so many concerns and issues in the world. And so with that as our foundation, we were like, okay, so let's stop and let's educate ourselves, right? And so in doing that, we came up with Table Talks, because what Table Talks is just an opportunity to view a documentary that has some kind of concern in it, and have safe conversation around that documentary. So in a means of just educating ourselves, other people started wanting to be educated as well. And so people from the community started coming to our Table Talks, and we've tackled documentaries such as Who We Are, A Chronicle of Racism in America, which is a very deep one, gives a very broad view of what racism looks like in America. We've done 13th, Ava DuVernay's film on how the criminal slave to criminal, I think is what it is, with one amendment, and how there's an intersection there between race justice and mass incarceration. We have done Segregated by Design, and this was in September. We decided that housing was a really big issue in our community and in the world. And so we focused on 2 Table Talks in September. One was Segregated by Design, which talks, about redlining and how all of that just really separates us all out. And this was the first time that we had a guest to come and speak to the Table Talk participants. And we had Primary Deputy Assistant Secretary of HUD, Demetria McCain, came in and spoke. Yeah. So it was very powerful. And then after that, the same month, September, we looked at the documentary Owned, A Tale of Two Americas. And we had Giorgio Angelini, who is the director of that film, zoom in from LA. And he spoke to us about the film. And so just very powerful means of educating ourselves and learning about what in the world is going on in this world. And since we were kind of focused on what's happening in housing, we were like, okay, so what do we do now? We've been educated, but what are the next steps? And so in November, we had what we call, where do we go from here? How do we advocate for fair housing? So we looked at poverty, politics, and profit, which kind of talked about some local concerns here in Dallas. And we had 2 civil rights attorneys to be on the panel, along with a housing developer and 2 directors of organizations right here in Dallas. And they were on the panel that for the participants could give us some action steps. And so we were very delighted that from that, our group was able to participate in one of the city council meetings to help support a new, it was a grant or something that was coming out. And Brian Tony, who had been one of our panelists, was there to speak. And so we got to go there to support him and stand up and say, hey, yeah, you need to make sure that this money goes toward housing, right? And so those are just some of the things that we've done to, what we say, educate ourselves, right? But we're also bringing in the community, right? The community is hearing. One of the panelists for Where Do We Go From Here just happened to hear about us and participated in the September table talks. And he ended up being a wonderful panelist on the November table talk. So yeah, just, and we're like very, very new, but God is really moving and giving us direction as to what we need to do, to bless our community and to help those that are struggling, those who are on the margins of life, right? So in addition to that, we have done some fun things because we wanted to know, I'm not from Dallas, and so we were able to take the Hidden Tours tour of Black Dallas here together, and very informative, things that I never even thought of and knew, but we wanted to do that together. And we also got to go to the Holocaust Museum and witness the Jim Crow exhibit that's there. So nice. Just, melding together and listening for the direction that God is leading us to help those in our community.
Yeah, so real talk time. Been around churches for a while, and I know that there are many congregations who are good at or interested in having those conversations, right?
Yes.
But was it a challenge to shift from conversation to justice work, putting that work into action, or putting those conversations into action?
It is sometimes a challenge to do that. And that was why we had the that last, where do we go from here? What are our action steps? And so at this point, what we do is we depend on those who are the experts at it, right? And so are reaching out to those who were on our panel, those who had come in. It's like, so what do we do to make sure that we're making a difference in this world? Because that's part of what Justice Builders is here to do, not only to educate, but to get some movement, right? To bring people together so that there can be some resolution to some of the things that are going on in our communities.
Yeah, I love that. And y'all are certainly a very good example of that. And I want to talk a little bit about you and your why. You, as a pastor, have devoted a good chunk of time and energy towards justice ministries. Why is this such an important priority for you?
Wow. Gosh, I grew up in a time where, my dad as a pastor, I could see him doing the work of justice as a pastor. And it seems like this many years later, we've either gone backwards, there's been a little progress, but it seems like as far as justice is concerned, we're stuck. It seems like we're stuck in the mire, right? And I remember, Dr. Martin Luther King said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." And so I feel like everybody's justice right now is in jeopardy if we don't do something. And as a pastor, that's what I feel like I'm called to do. We end our Pledge of Allegiance with 4 or 5 words that say, with liberty and justice for all. But there is no liberty for so many people, and there is no justice for all, for sure. And so, like Jesus, when he encountered sick people, people that he saw on the margins of life, those who had no hope, it seemed. He didn't just notice them and walk on by. He did things to help them. He provided resources. And I remember a story where Jesus healed a man who was blind. And after he healed him, he told him, go wash yourself in the pool of Siloam, right? And so not only did he heal, but he provided a resource for this man to go to. And so that's kind of part of what we do. I want to do what I can to right the wrong situations like Jesus. If people are hungry, let's find a way to feed them. Let's find clothes for people who are naked, for people who are unjustly incarcerated, just for being, or killed for being just Black, right? What do we do about that? And so I do justice work because I want to live just like Jesus, right? Meaning I want to be just like Jesus, and all the work that he did, he provided justice. And so I want to live and I want to love just like Jesus. So that's why I do what I do.
I love that, and I love the work that you are doing. It is a new year. A lot of people are making resolutions. I'm not going to presume that you're making a resolution for all of your clergy colleagues, but I do wonder if you might provide a word of challenge, maybe. What do you wish your clergy colleagues would do to lead on these justice issues?
Wow. There's so much that clergy do, but they're opportunities, right? And so it would be my hope that all clergy would take the authority that's given to us by God when we step into a pulpit to speak the truth in love, right? The pulpit doesn't have to be in a church. It could be at the dinner table. It could be in a parking lot. It could be at the local bar, right? But when people are in the world who are confused, people who continue to try to take us all down a rabbit hole of conspiracy theories and lies, we cannot be afraid to correct them, but to correct them in love, right? Explaining things like slavery didn't benefit Black people, and here's why. And the Civil War had everything to do with slavery. It could not be negotiated, right? And here's why. There's certain authority that clergy do have, and opportunities that we do have. And so it is my prayer that, we take the authority that God has given us to speak in love about situations that need to be corrected.
And not just clergy, right? Like, we all have a responsibility. And I think
exactly
as we're talking about going into this new year of 2024, I think most of us expect that there will be contention throughout this year. I think there's going to be a lot of time and energy spent this year confronting many of those issues that you talked about. What role do you believe people of faith have in shaping the conversation in the public square, especially in this year of 2024?
Right. It's already starting. So
it's already starting.
And I feel like it's gonna just widen from here, right? But as you said, it's not just clergy. People of faith, I consider, are ministers, right? We're all called for what God is calling us to do. And so as people of faith, I think one of the best ways that we will be able to handle the contention and to, shape conversation is to make sure that we ourselves are educated about what the issues are, so that when the conversations come up, we are able to speak intelligently about what's going on. And I also think that we should make sure that we are doing what we can, not only to educate ourselves, but to educate those around us so that, people have a better foundation and a better understanding about what's going on in the world. I admit I don't know it all, but I do want to make sure that I'm putting myself in the place where I can learn so that if issues are brought up to me, I will be able to speak intelligently about it, because what I don't want to do, I look at pictures now of the history of America, and I look at things that were happening during, civil rights movement, and Jim Crow and all of that. And I look at the pictures and I see people on there, people who seem to be exhibiting hate or negativity in these pictures, right? And I just never want to find myself, and I don't want people around me to find themselves on the wrong side of history, right? More importantly, I want people to be able to find themselves on the right side of love and justice for everybody. So I think education is a way to do that, so that we can be able to shape conversations in an intelligent way.
Finding ourselves on the right side of love. I love that.
Exactly.
Speaking of places we can learn, we should all continuously be looking for opportunities to learn. And we're going to have an opportunity that I'm particularly excited about in Dallas.
Yeah.
We've been talking over the course of the last few weeks about Texas Impact co-sponsoring an event with you all February 3rd in Dallas. We'll have more information on the website and in all of our social media feeds. But what should people know about that, and what has you excited about that opportunity?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I am so excited about this. And I'm so excited that when I called Texas Impact, someone had already called, right? And that was Amy Moore over at Grace Presbytery. And so we got together and we talked, and Justice Builders and Grace Presbytery and some congregants there. We are so excited about North Texas Faith Votes that, as you said, will happen on the 3rd of February. It's going to be at North Park Presbyterian Church, and it starts at 1. It will end at 4, we say. Registration actually starts at 12:30, and then there will be a time after 4 o'clock for clergy and laity to come together and just to talk and to meet each other. So we will have that time. But I'm very excited that at this gathering, we are going to have a wonderful time of hands-on civic engagement. So it'll be like a training, right? Where we, as our congregations, will learn how to mobilize the voters and get people out there. So I'm hoping that there will be a lot of people there, but those who are there, we are hoping that they will take this information back to their congregations so that their congregations will be mobilized and learn from what we will be taught on the 3rd. We'll also be hearing from some local officials that are there. And of course, Texas Impact is going to be there to impart great wisdom to all of us. And so I am just so excited about this event and how it has come together. Just so lovely, right? But what's even more exciting is that this won't be the only one, right? We are planning additional events for this year, because we know this is a very important year, and so we want everyone to be as educated as possible. And so, looking forward to this event on the 3rd. So hope to see everybody there. Everybody.
Yes, we hope to see everyone there. If you're not in the Dallas area, we'll have other opportunities in areas near you. But Reverend Angela Williams, I really appreciate the time today. Any other shameless plugs or closing thoughts you want to leave us with?
Well, I talked a little bit about Justice Builders. And like I said, it started with these two congregations, but everybody who wants to be involved, we want you involved, especially if you're in this area. So if you want more information, you can contact me at awilliams at fumcdallas.org. awilliams at fumcdallas.org. Also, we're going to have a couple of other table talks coming up this first part of the year in April. Our table talk is going to be centered around maternal mortality. And so that's a big issue. And then one in June, we're going to be talking about food insecurities. And so, again, the table talks are documentaries or films, and then we get to talk at our tables about how we're going to work at eradicating some of these issues. And so, yeah, I hope to see some of you. Don't hesitate to reach out to me.
All right, Pastor, we really do appreciate the time today, and I am excited to see you in a few weeks.
Yes,
we'll look forward to seeing you and all of our listeners hanging out in Dallas on February 3rd.
Awesome.
Thanks again. We'll talk soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this week's conversation with Reverend Angela Williams. I know I'm looking forward to seeing her February 3rd in Dallas, and you are invited to the party. Keep an eye on Texas Impact's website and social media for opportunities to sign up for North Texas Faith Votes or an event near you. Y'all, this is an important year for democracy, justice, and equity, and I know Texans of Faith will be ready for the challenge. We look forward to partnering with you. If you have questions or ideas for the program, let me know. You can reach me at scott@texasimpact.org. I also hope you'll support this podcast by subscribing, sharing, or by joining Texas Impact as a member to support this podcast and the work of Texas Impact year-round. So with that, I think it's time that we close out this episode. So remember, the world needs Texans of Faith active and engaged. So let's get to work.
Weekly Witness is hosted by Scott Atnett, engineered and produced by David Fasalo. Our executive producer is B. Moorhead. The opinions expressed on Weekly Witness are those of Texas Impact and our guests, and do not necessarily reflect the views of our sponsors. Weekly Witness is a product of Texas Impact, people of faith working for justice. Visit us online at texasimpact.org.